In today's economy, more people than ever are looking to buy and sell businesses. But how do you do it? Welcome to the Deal Board, presented by Transworld Business Advisors. Straight talk about real deals and real people. Listen to stories, interviews, and expert advice to help your business sale, merger, or acquisition process. Now, here are your business exit experts, Andy and Jessica.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is another amazing edition of the Deal Board podcast. And we are here and we want to talk about, we always talk about sometimes specialties in the business brokerage world and people selling specialized businesses. And we've heard this before, and we get this question a lot is like, do you need to have specific knowledge about an industry to be able to sell it? Yeah.
No.
I know. The answer is no, but it does help that we know a lot about a lot of industries.
Right. Well, I think, Andy, and there are certain people out there that are niche people, right? We only do insurance agencies or we specialize in medical practice, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But our brand and what you guys have established over the last 46 years is we've been selling businesses since 1979. There's really not an industry we have not touched or don't have experience in. So although we don't specialize in any one industry, we've got experience in every industry.
Yes.
That's what sets us apart.
Yes. From I was talking about some of our stranger deals, one of them a truckload of dead bodies, but we don't have to talk about hot dog stands. I mean, everything we've sold, medical practices. But today I want to talk about our second biggest industry.
In Transworld, what we sell the most.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
which is construction businesses. Yes.
I mean, it's a huge part of what Transworld does over the last several years. Construction has been very hot. Housing market has been on fire. It might have cooled off somewhat, but still if you look at all the economics out there in the world, there's still a housing shortage.
Right. And not just in the residential space, you got all the commercial space that's being done as well.
And all the infrastructure that's being built. And there's a ton of opportunity out there. And we keep talking about the baby boomers.
And what's interesting, especially in the housing shortage conversation, is how many of the baby boomers, they don't want to buy cars. They don't even want to buy houses, a lot of them. Because I don't know if I'm going to be in that same place for a long period of time. So as much as residential construction is still booming, but I see a lot of residential construction booming in the apartment side of things, multifamily housing, as opposed to the single family housing people.
So since I saw a presentation at the IBBA about this, and we were talking about it, and the presenter said that the construction industry is the largest segment of the national economy.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I did not know that either.
That's Rhett.
Yes.
And he was the fellow CBI that was presenting on that topic.
And he did a good job, but he said it's almost 5% of the U.S. GDP. And it's, again, the second largest segment that we sell. Number one is hospitality, of course. But as far as dollars are concerned, it is by far the biggest thing.
And it's big dollars.
Yes,
some of these construction, architecture, engineering, fabrication, there's so many different pieces or so many different segments of that construction industry. That's why the cumulative number is probably so large.
And they say there's over 4 million businesses in the U.S. that are construction related.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty. And I don't know what the percentage of baby boomers are, but I think it was 40% of small businesses were owned by baby boomers.
Right.
So if you did the math, there'd be over 1 million businesses.
And a lot of them want these service type industries. You have the larger pool where it is engineering or it's architecture, that type of thing, where you're getting really large deals being done. Big transactions, well-established companies.
Roll-ups.
They're doing roll-ups, but those businesses are doing high revenue. They got high EBITDA or whatever. And there's people who are looking to come in and do the roll-ups, or the family office. We want to come in and assume ownership there. We're going to keep running it. We got management team in place. So it's very, very appealing on that side. And then you got all these other people that want to come in and they want to buy those service industries that are touching construction, HVAC, plumbing, painting, carpentry, electrical work, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we see a lot of the specialty trades coming up for sale and being bought. Like you said, HVAC, it couldn't be hotter, no pun intended. I mean, every time we get an HVAC company or a plumbing company or an electrical contractor.
You're inundated.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of buyers. And, and then there are, the suppliers and the construction equipment companies and the tool and the tool businesses. I think our largest deal last year was basically a tool and die company. They were somewhat of a manufacturer, but again, for the construction industry. Yeah.
Feeding into that
industry. So it's crazy.
Well, I know in the office in the Carolinas that Eli and the team there run the first deal that Sherry did. She's one of the newer agents on the team. Was with an electrical contractor, and he's dealing primarily with builders. That's his customer, his client pool. A very small number, less than a dozen builders, but he's been doing business with them for the last 30 years. And here's a guy who's thinking, didn't even think about selling the business. She just happened to do a drop letter with him. He called her and said, I'm thinking of closing. I'm 70 plus years old and I'm going to retire. Didn't even think that he had something worth selling. And it was a $500,000 transaction.
Yeah, well, a lot of them don't think they have something to sell because there are challenges in selling construction businesses. Let's talk about some of those challenges. You just brought one up that, there's licensing issues out there and
in his case customer concentration that was going to be the big issue. And it's just interesting because the buyer who came in wasn't only interested in the acquisition for the purpose of who the customers were, et cetera. He had another industry that he needed the electrical license for. He's servicing companies that require him to have an electrical license-based business in the U.S. to be able to service the new contracts that he's getting. So he was buying it not for even what it was doing, but so that he would have an established business with an electrical contractor license in the U.S. so he could continue serving these other customers. It's a means to an end for him.
Yeah. I mean, we see that a lot in these deals is that they are strategic buyers in nature.
That's right. So customer concentration could be one of those things to consider, just like licensing. So let's take those two as separate conversations, right? Sure. So the customer concentration piece is always something that the buyer is concerned with.
Right.
And why is that the case? What are they worried about?
Well, they're worried about that one customer going away.
Right.
And it's funny. We just sold a large company. It was I forget, it was a HVAC business again. 70% was one
client. Yeah. So the concern for the buyer is, well, if I lose that client and I don't have an ongoing contractual obligation, et cetera, that revenue is now walking out the door. Right. So as the seller, how did they mitigate that?
Well, they mitigated it by a couple of ways. Number one, they eventually did have a conversation with that customer.
Okay.
And so the customer was empathetic to the seller wanting to retire. And they told the seller, they told the customer that the seller was going to stick around for a while.
Right. That's
so the seller's going to stick around for a while. And then, of course, there were safeguards for lowering the price if
they lost the customer.
And that's through an earn out.
Right.
Or contingent notes.
Yeah. So the biggest piece there is the assurance for the buyer, and the way to mitigate that is that the seller who has the relationship is going to continue on for a certain period of time.
Right.
To make that transition smooth. Obviously, if there's a way to get contracts put in place, now you may be looking at a stock sale instead of an asset sale. Yes. But that way you're locking in and giving some assurance to that buyer that, hey, this business isn't going away when you take over.
Right.
Yeah.
So the second piece was the licensing. Right.
Yes.
And so that is somewhat difficult, but if it's a strategic buyer where they already have the license, that's not a problem. But in your case, you were talking about they wanted that license.
They wanted the license, and the way they were able to work through that was, and there's multiple ways you can do it. Again, stock sale would be one.
Right.
But the license is normally not just with the entity, it's with an individual.
Correct.
So in this case, he sticks around, he gets a salary after the training and transition period is over, and he has an ongoing contract with them as a as a contractor, an employee basically, but it's really a contractor deal where he sticks around for the next few years. He sells the business for $500,000. He still gets paid every year for the next couple of years for the work that he's doing. And the buyer gets the benefit of his license still being there until such time as the buyer gets his own new license.
Yeah. And there are people out there that will lend their licenses.
True.
I mean, there are retired people that, they could get paid too if they come aboard and lend their license. We don't see that too often, but in an emergency, we've seen people people pass away, and all of a sudden you have to find someone to sit in for a license. So it can happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it's an employee that's on team.
Right.
It may not be the owner itself, and if that employee is sticking around, you make it worth their while to be able to use the licensing as well. So, but in construction in general, you are going to have some of those hurdles, so to speak, or things that you need to consider in making sure that you can get the deal across the line.
So then, a lot of things that we talked about customer concentration issues, but sometimes, the economy in the construction industry has changed over time. It goes up, it comes down, it goes up, it comes down. And then sometimes there's a seasonality to construction.
Yes.
We were talking about this with our Canadian franchisees. And it was funny because they were saying that these contractors, while they don't have an opportunity to work in the dead of winter sometimes on the outside, so things slow down, right? So, and then it's funny, they said, because of, national laws and people taking vacation time, they're taking vacation time in the summer.
Oh, really?
In the summer. So they're trying to figure it out. But there can be a seasonality in some of these construction companies and or economic ups and downs with interest rates or with labor issues. So we've seen that too. And
I would say, one of the other things that they look at in the considering seasonality is the cash flow cycle of the businesses. And, if you're talking new construction and residential, a lot of times people are being paid as the job is being completed, various benchmarks or milestones that they reach. And there are a few companies that we've worked with where the services that they provide, they change during the different seasons, right? So, not directly related to construction in the building side, but in land management, erosion services, for example, or the guys who are coming in and clearing out the land to be able to do the building. But then at certain times of the year when there's snow on the ground, they're not doing that piece.
Well, we sold a security alarm business that was installing the security alarms in new construction houses. And at the same time, they were picking up the monitoring contracts.
Okay, after they did the install?
Which are more valuable
the ongoing.
So in the beginning, they were a huge installation company. And in the end, they wound up being a monitoring company. Right. And so there are some things like that. And we've certainly seen people pivot from being a new construction housing. And then when that didn't go well, they pivoted into service and repair.
Or renovation, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
So those are all the things that we need to look at to try to guide the seller to how we're going to sell this and go out and
to come up with ways that they can help stabilize what that revenue stream looks like over the course of a year, so that you can avoid some of the highs and lows, because that's a cash flow issue for the buyer. Hey, if the spring and the summer is the big time for me to build, what's going to happen in the winter? How am I going to meet my overhead and my deadlines? And that probably translates into work in progress, accounts receivable, working capital. How do they calculate all of that when an offer comes together?
Right. And if you do have a construction business, both work in progress and working capital will have to be not only addressed, but included.
Included in the deal.
Yes. And we're going to have to value it.
Yep.
And we're going to have to come up with a big old spreadsheet that shows percentage of completions. We're going to have to keep it updated. And hopefully they have some good project management software
or something that they can keep track of it, right?
Yeah.
Because, the argument for the seller is going to be, especially on the AR, I finished the job, I haven't gotten paid yet. I'm waiting for that. That's completed work.
Right.
Work in progress is, I've taken the deposit, I've ordered the materials, but I haven't started the build yet.
Right.
Okay, well, when the buyer comes in and he's going to start the build, he's going to have to pay the labor for that.
Right.
You already have the materials, but what percentage of that job when it gets finished, what percentage of that money is going to the seller, if any, and what's the buyer going to keep for doing the work?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of calculations that have to take place to make sure that we arrive at a number everybody agrees on.
Yeah, just to get to a valuation and get the buyer to buy at that price.
Yep, that's right.
And with, again, with one of the things that you're going to want Transworld for is, again, if you put something up for sale like this, number one, you have to worry about confidentiality. I mean, you don't want your vendors to know, you don't want your customers to know.
Not the
Certainly
contractors.
don't want the employees to know, or your subcontractors or your suppliers. I mean, and then if you're going to get 200 responses, to an outreach.
Once there's a business listed, you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit tough to handle that.
It's tough to control the confidentiality piece. And so you want the Transworld agent in that case who is really doing all the vetting of the buyers up front and then only bringing those who are suited for that particular purchase to the table to the seller, and really kind of protecting the seller from that onslaught of inquiries. They don't need to deal with that.
Yeah, I think out of any of the industries that we handle, construction seems to attract more looky-loos or more people that aren't qualified.
Right.
And that industry in particular, for some reason, we have to do a great job of qualifying people. And not that we are the ultimate qualifiers. I mean, at the end of the day, I've seen this industry be less price sensitive and more getting the right fit.
Right. The right buyer coming in.
Yeah, because
qualified.
Again, you're looking at a business a lot of times that has a lot of employees and or a lot of subcontractors.
Right.
And a lot of times they've been in business for a long time, especially if they're baby boomers, and they care about these people.
Right. The seller does want to make sure that their team gets taken care of after the sale is done. That's true. And I think also as you look at why are the looky-loos coming, it's because this is an industry that's not going away.
No,
it's not. Consistent. It performs year after year after year. Yep. There may be some seasonality and highs and low, but it's never going to stop.
No.
And so there's a benefit there to being able to buy a company like that is proven over time in the past and has a really long runway in front of it to continue to go down in the future.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons it does so well is because buyers understand that if they buy a construction business like this, they don't really have a limit to how big they could build it.
Completely scalable.
Yeah, it's very scalable. It's not like buying a gas station. It's hard to drag more people into the gas station.
Yeah, we just had a client that was working with inquiring on one of the businesses for sale because they were an HVAC company and they partnered with another person who was in the electrical contracting business. Right. Now they brought those two together and they're looking to acquire other similar service businesses. They're bringing plumbing in, they're bringing painting in, and they're bringing architecture in.
Right.
Because they're building an entire firm where they don't have to just be dependent on, yes, I can take that job, but I got to farm a lot of this work out. They're keeping it in-house.
And one of the nice things again is that these businesses on the small side can sell for 2 times.
Yes.
And then as you build them, they could sell for how many times?
3.5, 4, 5.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you get a multi-million-dollar business. So again, the scalability of these businesses make them very attractive, and the ability for people to buy them and get them financed. We were able to get these financed a lot.
Yep.
If they have good books and records, and most everybody does. This is not a cash business usually.
Yes, not on the bigger side anyway.
Right. So these are great businesses for buyers out there in the world, and I think we're going to do more of them. And Transworld's a great place to sell them, obviously.
It's interesting. You talk about the bigger businesses, and there were smaller ones in the South Carolina market, one of the first deals we did years ago. And it was a guy he owned 2 businesses. And one was a small construction business. He had subcontractors doing most of the work. They were refurbishing apartments after the tenants moved out, changing the carpeting, repairing the holes in the wall from the Friday night parties or whatever they needed to do. And he owned a second business, which was the mud business, where he did the monster truck rallies.
Wow.
So he would rent out an arena, bring in all the dirt, build the hills, and do the monster truck thing. He made a boatload of money doing that. And so this other construction business was kind of like this little thing he had on the side, which still was doing several $100,000 a year. His books and records were one sheet of paper. Oh, boy. Okay. Yes, exactly. Okay. No P&Ls. It was, here's my rent. Here's what I pay for my labor. Here's what I pay for my phone. Did zero advertising, but we wound up selling that. His receipts were in a box.
There you go.
That's what you deal with. Okay. So sometimes everybody gets hung up on the books and records. It's got to be solid. That's ideal. Right. But not every small construction company is like that. And a lot of these older ones are run by the mom and pops who are really good. Right. They were tradespeople that started a business and now have grown the business. It's not overly sophisticated, but a buyer coming in has all upside. Yeah. They can automate a lot of that. They can put all of the accounting programs that they need to put in. They could put in project management software to keep track of these things. And then they can scale by adding these other industries to it.
It's the millionaire next door.
That's correct. That's right.
And those are the businesses. So if you want to sell your construction business, we're telling you, we're giving you some information, what it's like to sell your construction business, all the things that you need to be concerned about, but we're here to guide you through.
Yeah. So you call your local Transworld and let them help you out.
Give us a call.
Buy or selling.
Yeah. No. So I appreciate covering this topic. I think everybody will appreciate it. We also always have a
deal of the week
and a listing of the week. So we'll try to throw some construction ones in there if we can. So we'll be with you next time. JT, thanks for joining me today.
Yes.
Great subject.
Thanks for being on the deal board.
Hey, Jessica, you know what time it is?
Money time?
Almost. It's time for listing of the week.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is listing of the week, and I am here with the Tom Milana, international business broker to the stars. And also been with us for a very long time. And so Tom, you have a nice new business. Tell us about it.
I do. I have a 20-year-old HVAC company here in South Florida, doing about $6.7 million in revenue last year. Throws off about $600,000 in discretionary earnings.
Wow.
Fabulous company. Specializes in not only residential, but they do a lot of commercial retrofits. So,
which is popular.
Very popular. The phone's ringing off the hook. Don't expect it to be around too much longer. But if you're looking to sell your HVAC company, I got about 1,000 buyers.
Yeah, so the very popular sector these days out there in the world. So give us a little bit about the numbers. You said 2.1 and it's netting about?
Asking price is 2.1. Gross revenue is 6.7.
Wow.
And the discretionary earnings is about 600.
All right, so, but it got a lot of rolling stock, I heard, and you've got some equipment. So great business.
Awesome business.
Very, very established. So Tom, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Cell phone, 561-702-6867. And my email is tom@tworld.com.
Excellent. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Andy, do you know what time it is? It's time for our deal of the week.
Deal of the week.
Sold. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Deal of the Week, and we have Dan Tomlin from Transworld Business Advisors of Jacksonville, and he had a great deal. Tell us about this deal. It was a construction-related service, right?
So it was a construction management service. Basically, it's owner's rep. The gentleman that owned the company for roughly 20 years.
Wow.
What they do is they basically represent owners. So just imagine your billionaire guy wants to build a new building. He doesn't have time to sit there and deal with general contractors and architects and this, that, and the other. So he basically hands off what his idea and plans are to an owner's rep.
Right.
The owner's rep then goes out, bids for the contractors, brings in the architects, does the planning, works with the city, finds all the problems, fixes all the problems, and he's the guy that writes all the checks for that billionaire owner.
And you found them a buyer.
And we found him. It was a very difficult buyer. So to explain this shortly, this particular owner said, hey, I don't want to deal with anybody who hasn't been in project management for construction for at least 10 years.
Right.
And so there was a lot of things. I brought 40 buyers to the table.
Wow.
We just had discussions because, I'm not going to waste the guy's time and put him in front of people that aren't going to be qualified or he's not going to like. And so it was just a filtering process. It took about 8 months to find the right buyer, about 4 months to get it done.
Wow.
We had a few hiccups with banking and whatnot as well, especially with working capital. Little creative engineering. We actually raised the price, left some money behind for working capital, and the accounts receivables, got it through the bank, got it done.
All right. And how much did it sell for approximately?
So net to the buyer was 2.2. It was a $2.4 million deal.
$2.4 million deal. And so sounds like good deal for good people.
Great deal for great people.
All right.
And the buyer and the seller are freaking crazy happy.
Oh, good.
The buyer was actually out of Chicago. He was an ex-Navyman. He actually was in the business of building, as after the Navy, building ships for the military and for other large people. So your cruise ships and things like that, where he had 2,000-3,000 people underneath him. So he knew how to run a big deal. He says, hey, man, if I can build a ship, I can build any business.
There you go.
And put them together, and it just hit off. And, a couple dinners, a few drinks, and we shook hands, signed it up.
Great job. Dan, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Find me online, man. It's I have a phone number. It's 904-800-SELL. It's easy enough.
There you go.
You can tag me on 904 Business Broker. It'll take me straight to Transworld's website. My public page is right there. You don't have to punch a bunch of stuff. And you can see my listings. You can see my background. Been doing this for about 6 years now. Loving it.
Great job.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning into the show today. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends on social media. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app. If you have questions, would like to appear, or have suggestions for topics for the show, get in contact with us through our website, thedealboardpodcast.com.